Okay.
Fantastic. All right. So, look, let's kick off. So, good morning, everyone, everyone that is on the line and people that watch this as a recording. Good morning to sunny Marlborough, Wellington. I think we've had a few participants or few registrations from Martinborough and Wellington and Auckland. So thank you very much for joining us for this webinar, which is focusing on how to create value with your data assets, a summary for New Zealand wineries. My name is Kat Thomas, and I'm a client manager for Intergen, which is a Microsoft partner organization. I'm very excited to have our data and AI team here with me today to provide you with some great insights on how to make the most of the data within your business. We've made this a really practical session, focusing on, showcasing what can be achieved with Power BI, outlining the things to consider to make sure that you start the right way with Power BI and data. We'll share some useful tips that you can implement straight away, and then we'll round up with a Q&A where you can ask the team anything you want to know about data and Power BI. If you want to ask anything during the session, given we've got quite a small group today, it's fine to just ask us anything throughout the presentation. So either pop a message into the chat window or use that handy raise your hand feature on Teams. Otherwise, I guess I'll ask you to just stay on mute just so that we can all hear each other well today. So with that, let me introduce you to the speakers today. We've got the Intergen Data and AI team here, Priyanka Roy, Adele Marshall, and Zara Baker. So over to you guys.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Priyanka Roy, and as you can see, I'm dialed in from a meeting room in Wellington. And I have been with Intergen for about 5.5 years, and in the data space for about 15 years. And what I do in my role is I help customers understand the value that they can get from their data and help them take through that journey, go through that journey. So I'll hand over to Adele, who will introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Adele Marshall. I'm the National Practice Lead for Data and AI. So what I do is I work with customers, similar way to Priyanka, helping get value from their data, but I sort of help them with practical steps and activities along the way to improve data maturity. So I've come from working many years in customers side, and now I'm sort of in a consulting arena to help more customers. Zara.
Cool. Hello, everybody. Good morning. So my name is Zara, and I'm part of Adele and Priyanka's team at Intergen. So I've also been here for almost 5 years, and I play an interesting role at Intergen. I get to work with the likes of you guys and work with your data and trying to bring it into tools like Power BI and to bring value with data and tools like Power BI and Azure and all of the fun stuff. So lovely to meet you all.
Thank you, Zara. So yeah, before we start, I thought that I would just put in a context some of the work that we are doing in the data space within the wine and food sectors in New Zealand. I've joined Intergen about 2.5 years ago, and over that time, I've really seen the size of our data and AI practice grow considerably in size. I've seen some significant growth in demand for data services from our customers across New Zealand and Australia. So the products and services that we offer at Intergen are not just ultimately what the customers need, but what really allows them to adapt to and embrace the incredible change that's happening within the economy in both New Zealand, overseas. And I guess some of the changes, just to put it in a context that we are seeing around technology adoption and automation across the entire supply chain. We're seeing digital supply chains traceability is becoming a really key focus for wine and food producers, especially as they work hard to leverage the New Zealand sustainability status and sustainability efforts. We're seeing, I guess, in the light of the likes of COVID, market disruptions where organizations and wineries have to pivot from food service, HoReCa to retail sales, for example, which immediately affects their margins. We are seeing things like consolidation of the sector and vertical integration, where the size and the scale of our customers' businesses really impacting the market access. We're seeing things like retail organizations purchasing wineries to gain better access to products, better control of margins. And I guess the key message here, and what we're ultimately seeing in the market, is what is driving this transformation is the fact that data is more and more coming out of everything, and data is being created across every single touch point throughout the value chain. So I guess at Intergen, if you go on to the next slide, Adele, we call this digital feedback loops. So within the context of your industry, we're seeing data from importers, distributors, consumers, growers, production related data created by employees of organizations. All of this data essentially existing within the wider ecosystem. And I guess the opportunity really is to bring this together, whether it's in a simple form, into a cohesive dashboard that helps the organization make more intelligent decisions, timely decisions, or in a more complex form, I guess, into ultimately a platform, a technology platform that allows them to do that at a scale. So our role at Intergen is to help create and leverage these feedback, digital and data feedback loops for our customers to make their organizations ultimately more profitable and more intelligent. So the focus of today, and I guess I will hand over shortly to Adele. She'll explain how to get started on the journey, and then give you some really practical tips on where you can take it. Where you can take it to, and things you can implement straight away. So over to you, Adele. Oh, sorry, there's one more slide. I guess this slide, focusing on some of the challenges that we're really seeing within the organizations that perhaps don't give them or don't allow them to leverage the opportunities that present themselves within the market. So we're seeing things like where systems are disconnected and information is siloed across the systems, or there's duplicate data entry into multiple systems, and or accounting occurs in Excel, or data reporting just occurs in Excel, multiple Excel spreadsheets, is highly manual, reporting is complicated and provides insufficient information, or there are knowledge gaps, for example, around the use of data within the organization as really what some of our customers are challenged with. So that's what we really focus on at Intergen. And now over to Adele to show you how to get started.
All right, thanks, Kat. So as I mentioned before, I'm quite practical with how to get started. This, especially when there's a lot of different things to consider. So that's what I'm going to cover off. The first thing I want to talk about was the maturity curve of utilising information for analytics and reporting. So this first sort of stage where we see a lot of customers at is just straight out reporting. So looking at what happened. So it's that typical rear view mirror, looking in the past, what happened. The sort of next step up from that is looking at why did it happen, starting to manipulate the data to drill down to answer different types of questions around the results that you're seeing. The questions should derive actions to take to change your results in the future. So it's sort of using history to start shaping up right decisions to influence the future. So predictive models are looking at what will happen. So looking at a whole lot of historical data that's been structured in the right way, looking at utilising this to predict what's likely to happen in the future given the historical metrics for particular things that you want to measure or monitor. From there, the prescriptive. So given there's a likely prediction that something will happen, you can prescribe recommended course of actions and automated activity as well based on history. So most of our customers that we see are sort of in the beginning. There are some that are starting to move into the more advanced analytics, but I would say the majority of people are sort of around here. So perhaps just have a quick think around where you think you are on the maturity curve. So building your analytics capabilities. So I mean, some of these programs of work are quite small. It can start with a simple dashboard, or you can have a full, depth and breadth of a data program that lasts years. But the main thing is I've sort of boiled it down into some simple steps, but starting small, but with the end in mind, and improve it incrementally. That's sort of, I guess, my key tip there. So how we usually do this for our customers, and you can do it yourself as well, is looking at the business goals of your organisation. So you may have a strategic objectives, business goals that you want to meet over the coming year or even 3 or 5 years into the future. So when you look at your business goals, thinking around the information that you would need to measure and monitor in alignment with that goal, you may have key questions that you want to ask around the goal. The goal may be to improve operational efficiency, for example. So you would think about, well, what questions would I need in order to achieve that goal? And then looking at the data that you'd needed, the data that you would need to answer those questions. So the starting small is a bit of a theme. So you can build a small pilot dashboard. Zara's going to show us one later on in the presentation, but again, it can just be over a spreadsheet of data that you've collated, or you can hook it up to a database or another system within your organisation to pull the data out. But building a small pilot dashboard just to get used to visualising the key metrics in alignment with a business goal, and being able to drill through and manipulate the data in a visual way. We also talk a little bit around data storytelling with the dashboard. So being able to tell a story with the data, what's been happening within the business, and looking at what you would like to happen, and then the types of activities or actions you could take to change the outcome. So reflect your progress and plan forward. So that's really where that maturity diagram would come in, looking at how far you've come from the sort of proliferation of data that doesn't necessarily match up through to having a source of the truth dashboard, and then planning forward what more do you want to add to your dashboard or data warehouse, or what do you think you need going forward. So when crafting the questions, what I've been doing with a few customers recently is this user story format. So again, I thought I'd share it so that you can look at doing it yourself, and Kat has populated it with some hopefully relevant user stories that you can relate to. So with the user story, the format is imagining yourself as a consumer of information, what you need to make a decision, the decision that you want to make, and then the value or outcome that it would have. So this example is as a winery sales manager, I want to create supply and demand forecasts so that I can make sure the allocation of product to market and any rework is reduced. So in return for understanding this from an information perspective, we should be able to drive down operating costs from relabouring, improve profitability and improve customer satisfaction. So in a recent example, I did this with a finance leadership team, and there were 5 of them, and each of the 5 could imagine 5 user stories that would make a really big difference in reducing the operating costs within the business. So it's quite a good format to use. So starting small, building a pilot dashboard, I've just sort of put a couple of examples here of what dashboards look like. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but Zara will show you a real live moving parts one soon. But generally you have your KPIs up the top, and then you're able to slice and dice and drill down and answer different questions within the dashboard itself. Okay. I'll hand over to Zara.
Great, thank you, Adele. Let me switch screens and hopefully everyone can still see that. Great, so today I'm going to walk us through a few practical examples in Power BI and how you could take data that you would typically be storing in spreadsheets or manipulating in spreadsheets and taking that same data and turning it into an interactive Power BI report, even if it's just starting with a small subset of data to start off that small proof of concept or pilot like Adele was mentioning. So I've got on screen a typical spreadsheet with our kind of transactional level information, and I'm sure you can all relate to having many different spreadsheets with many different tabs full of transactional data or data that you've manipulated manually or brought together manually in Excel. The problem with that, obviously, is that you don't really have that ability to interact with the data and produce interactive reports and allowing you to slice and dice and drill down without spending quite a lot of time manually, creating VLOOKUPs or manually creating charts or manually bringing things together. So typically, this is a process or a pain point for a lot of people where they're having to do that every month or every week just to be able to get a real life view of their data, and it's usually after a long period of time after the fact happens. So today I'm going to walk through just a quick example or a few different examples of how you could transform your Excel-like looking data into something more interactive in Power BI. So just a bit of background. I've got on screen a Power BI desktop. So this is the tool where report authors will build these interactive reports. And I just wanted to give you an idea how kind of easy it is to get started. Power BI has a lot of out-of-the-box connectors to many different data sources. So if I open here very quickly, Power BI has a long list of out-of-the-box connectors, and I'm pretty sure if I scroll down here, you'll probably see some that you could relate to and be like, oh, yeah, I have this data. A lot of it are Dynamics products or databases or Excel files or flat files. There's a wide range of different data sources. So out of the box, it's very easy to quickly connect to many different sources and bring it into a single place for report building. Power BI also, I think a lot of people don't know this, but Power BI also has the capability to transform and manipulate data from many different sources as well. So all of that you can build upfront, and going forward is something that's built in the report, and you don't have to rebuild and manipulate every month. Once you've set it up, you set up your report for any kind of new data that comes through. And also a really kind of key thing to highlight here is that Power BI is a very kind of easy to use interface. And for people who've already used Power BI or other Microsoft products in the past, you'll see that a lot of the menus or the ribbons at the top are very similar to other Microsoft products. So we've seen in the past that it's really easy for business users to start using it themselves. Power BI also is a very drag and drop interface. So I've already uploaded that Excel sheet that I was just showing you before into Power BI. And it's really easy to drag and drop your data once you have it in Power BI into this kind of canvas area here to build any kind of visual. So it's very easy to kind of drag and drop any fields that you like. So I could be dragging in, my total revenue by country. And it's really easy to go in and build visuals once you have your data in there. And just as a reminder that this data could be coming from many different data sources. So this is kind of a very quick kind of summary of how easily it is you can bring it into Power BI. But as an example, just to show everybody, what are the different, possibilities in Power BI and creating, your first kind of proof of concept or first pilot report. And this is the same data set, but this is kind of the nice looking view of a full dashboard that I've created. And this kind of first report here is really focused on wine shipments and sales. So typically maybe a sales manager can go into this report and is able to kind of go in and at all the different regions and see how their warehouses are performing in terms of order fulfillment, and be able to investigate any kind of inefficiencies in warehouses. And they can kind of easily drill in and drill down and slice and dice through the interactive visuals. So, we can select specific countries. So I can select New Zealand and the button over here. I can click on specific warehouses. So let's say I want to select, the Australian warehouse or, the New Zealand warehouse over here. And I can see where the inefficiencies are and, at what times, and maybe in July, all the different products that are impacted by that. Easily with just a few clicks. So it's very interactive. You can even filter by dates. You can slice and dice and get a real kind of quick view of all your key metrics within just a few clicks. You can also over here see, your top selling products, or you can select, specific markets, or see which sales units have been, the top selling ones, and all of that is very kind of, again, easy to interact. So I can select, a specific product over here, and I can see, oh yeah, this is how many orders it had over time. So with any click you select, it actually filters the data dynamically. So you're always looking at that subset of data that's relevant to whatever you've clicked on. Another example is wine tasting events. So this is another dashboard just to showcase some of the other data that I had in one of the other tabs around performance of wine tasting events. And I could, for example, this could be a marketing manager, and they can kind of very easily go and get insights around the performance and profitability of their wine tasting events. They're able to see, their average ratings. They're able to see how much revenue or profitability they've made, how many bottles were sold at each of these events. And again, this is all very interactive. You can very easily filter out to specific event types, specific countries. So I can hold and select, specific countries, and you're able to get that information very quickly. Now, moving on to another example, and this one is actually just an example that we've kind of worked on with another customer more recently. And this is just a kind of a simplified model around supply chain and traceability across the supply chain as well. So this is this first kind of report is all around the traceability of products from source to production, then to market. So you can see, the products going through the supply chain. So from source to the blends, to the production, to the actual orders, and any forecasts, all in kind of one single view. And this is like a good example of a report that might be helpful for a supply chain manager, where they're able to go and view and trace their products across the entire supply chain. So let's say I want to select a specific sales order here or a specific product. I can go in and select, I can select this one over here, and I can see very quickly where it came through from the source down to the blend, down to the production line, to bring to get to this order, or the other way around. I can select a specific block over here and I can see which blends and which production lines and which orders were fulfilled throughout the supply chain. So it's a really good way to visualize you know, the products going through the supply chain and easily identifying if there's anything that's gone wrong, or if you know that something's gone wrong at some point in the supply chain, you can go very quickly and see where the impacts could be by within a few clicks. Another example here is it's a good one as well for supply chain or even sales managers, and you can really compare the actual production against forecasts by different products or by different types of products, and you can very easily see the impacts of the supply and demand. So I can very quickly filter to a specific varietal in this case. So this is one specific product that I've selected, and I can very quickly see with interactions with the visuals that, hey, I'm actually not producing that much, but my sales orders and my forecasts are much higher, and this is what I'm expecting the demand to be. And very quickly a sales manager or a supply chain manager can go and identify the issue and take action to go and to see, oh, yeah, we don't have enough production to fulfill these orders. Or similarly, you could filter to another varietal and say, oh, yep, okay, this is my production so far. Filtering to this, I'm selecting on this bar, I can see, oh, yep, these are the different blocks and blends that are being produced. But I can see that I don't actually have a forecast or many orders, and so I don't want to produce too much stock or too much product that is not going to sell. I'll reset that. And then another example, and this is kind of more associated with margin analysis or cost of goods analysis of products at a kind of a product level or a sales order level, and being able to do things like what if analysis in Power BI. So this is a sales manager or any kind of general manager who wants to be able to compare the margin made across products depending on the market. So for example, a product that has gone out to export to the UK or domestically, you can see the different kind of cost breakdown structures, for example, and be able to do kind of what if analysis at that level. So in this case, you can see that your product that is going out for export is likely to have more distribution costs and product costs and costs that you don't really see. And then the only amount of margin that you're making is about $18 here, but any products that you're selling domestically, you can see that the cost breakdown structure is different, and therefore you're making more margin at that level. So there's a lot of different ways of visualizing and interacting with the data, and it could be at a high level summary level, just like this report, or it could be down to the granular detail. Power BI really can give you, many different use cases, and this is just an example or just a taste of what you can do in Power BI. So like Adele said, it's a really great time to start thinking about how you can build similar proof of concepts with your own data. And even if it's over a spreadsheet, you can actually start pulling that together into Power BI and being able to visualize your data differently. And maybe you've never visualized your data in certain ways, but it's a good place to get started. Cool. I think now I'll hand back to Adele just because I'm a bit conscious of time.
Did anyone have any questions so far? You're all very quiet. Because it's quite a small group, it's fine to ask questions if you'd like. Okay. Right. Okay. So, so Zara showed sort of an interactive dashboard example. So this was step 3 in the sort of 3 easy steps. It's reflecting on your progress and goals. So once you get started and have some visualizations and start practicing telling stories, it's a good idea to look at where you would like to go in the future. It may be that you sit here for a while and just add different data into the data set, either from within your organisation, but also outside your organisation as well. There's a lot of public data sets that are really useful. And by planning out your data, you can start thinking about some of these use cases as well, if there's any sort of predictive modelling that you would like to do. And yeah, very few people have prescriptive modelling, but there's a few that are starting to get into this predictive, especially in particular industries. Okay, Pri.
Yeah, so if you're wondering where you can get started, I mean, you could speak to us if you found this insightful. And the way we would help you get started would be, Adele, if you go to the next slide, is that we have a few pre-packaged, easy to get started offerings. And on the left-hand side, you see there's something called Jumpstart Power BI. And as the name says, we help you get jump-started with it. And in that engagement, let's say in 10 days, we work with you to identify a use case or a user story like Adele had shown at the start of the presentation. And we work with you to identify a user story and then help you identify the data sets that help inform that user story. And then finally, we build collect all the data sets and help you build a model, which you can then slice and dice and report and visualize on. So in 10 days, you could have something working right in front of you to play with. And we often see that once you get started with Power BI, you may also want to get trained with Power BI. So we do have some trainings, which are some basic level trainings, advanced trainings, and intermediate level trainings. So that's a good way to get started. And on the right-hand side, you see there are two more offers that we often use. It's called the Data Detective. And what we do as part of that engagement is sometimes organizations don't know what data set they have in the organization, and maybe they're sitting on gold mine and they don't know how to utilize it. So we come and speak to you, understand all these data sets and show you what you could do with it and help you identify some metrics that you could then report on. And the final one is a data strategy. Now, this is for organizations who are slightly more advanced and want to think holistically about their entire data journey and want to see where they want to be in the next 2 or 3 years. So we help them put together an actionable roadmap of what they could do in the next 6 months to the next 2 years. So these are some ways to get started, but of course you can always reach out to us, contact us, and maybe just discuss on what fits you best. Okay, over to you, Kat.
Yeah, I guess that just about wraps it up. So yeah, look, the field is open for any questions. Hope that you found especially the demo insightful and has inspired you to have a think about some use cases that could really add value to your business or your organization. So I guess now we've got still about 20 minutes if there's anyone that who would like to ask questions around how Power BI is used or can be used for your organization, then feel free to raise your hand and or drop us a note in the chat box. Yeah, now is your opportunity. Well, if everyone is too shy, we'll just distribute the presentation to you later today, and I guess we'll share our contact details, and if anyone has any follow-up questions, that you're more than welcome to reach out to us.
It's Marcus here. I just thought I would say thanks so much for putting the effort into making the examples so relevant to our industry. I think that's really, really helpful to see that firsthand. So thank you very much for doing that. It certainly gave me real insights into what the capability is. So appreciate that, Kat.
Well, thank you, Marcus. Yeah, it would be great if anyone even has any feedback to offer. I see a few people that met in the past here on this webinar from I think Jen from Wineworks. I think we might have met while I was living in Marlborough, and Lindsay as well. So yeah, feel free to share any feedback. Is it relevant to you guys? Do you see relevance to your business in creating these types of dashboards?
Sorry, it's Jan here. Yeah, we use a little bit of Power BI, and it's getting the data right at the beginning has been quite a big project, but it's pretty cool what you can do with it. I think the examples you've given there are great for our industry, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Right, so yeah, I guess if there's no further questions, yeah, we'll share this slide deck with you later today. And yeah, if you've got any further questions, feel free to reach out to us, whether that's to the data insights and data team or myself as the client manager. Will be more than happy to help support you on your data journey. So thank you very much.
Kat, where do we get your contact details?
I will send as part of, I guess, the registrations. I think you have all left your email address with us, so we'll just reach out to you to share the slide deck, and I'll share the contact details in that email.
Great. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you. Well, have a good day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Cheers all.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. See ya.